There we go. And yeah, I think this is a great place for us to be. I know we're all really, it's been a really intense week. So thank you really truly to everyone for coming and for sharing this space and for continuing this kind of learning in these moments. These are the kind of tools that we are going to need to continue all of our work for true liberation for everyone. So thank you, Julz, for and Jamie for your words here and song. So Julz, you can go ahead and share your screen whenever you're ready and we can get started.
Cool. I just lost. Wait, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
So just a second. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. This happened to me the other day, and sometimes it goes into like another screen. I don't know. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, and just another reminder to folks, like just if you just take care of yourselves. You know, if you need to leave and go get water and snacks and stuff, like please take care of yourselves throughout the workshop or circle. Yeah, do what you need to do. And
I'm gonna shout some people out just while we're while we're waiting. Mari Carr is tuning in from Seattle. Hi, Mari Carr. Oh, there's me. I'm in Palolo. Naimbag abigat kada kayo amin. That's Manang Marianella, who's here in Hawaii. Jessie says, thank you for mentioning Black siblings. Thank you, Jessie. Rose is also here from Waipahu. Rose is a current student in our Visayan class. Hi, Rose. And Nikki, Manang Nikki is here from Honolulu. Anton is here also from Honolulu. Anthony is here tuning in from Nanakuli. I also will mention Anthony and Yvette are also here from LAING, and I think they both have their names that have LAING Hawai'i on it, so you guys can wave if you want, but Anthony and Yvette are here for security and backup. So if anyone has any, like if you have any pressing issues that need to be addressed, you can just message one of us and in the chat. Kim is here from Honolulu. Monica and Vic are here from Ohlone territory, which is also San Francisco. Oh, it's 8 a.m. Sunday. Nicole, are you in Aotearoa, Nicole? I think you are. And Renee's here from Pearl City. So thank you everybody so much for being here.
thanks for your patience, y'all. My computer is really lagging right now.
It's okay. You can, and if you want, Julz, I can.
Oh, I just found it.
Okay, you found it? Okay, good.
Hold
I was like, I can do it.
Okay.
Got this. We got this. Also, I would suggest if you guys don't have a pen and paper or other ways of, you know, drawing or some kind of, that's a nice way to just kind of process through what's happening if it's hard to just be on the Zoom. I know it's hard for me to just focus sometimes, so I like to have a pen. I have my notebook here. If you want to go grab that, this is a good moment for that too. Here we go.
Okay.
Good morning, Gabe from Eva Beach.
Can we see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us here for Atang, Resilience and Ancestral Healing Practices for Everyday Ritual. This is a photo of me and Jamie in Manila when we were with Apu Adman and Lakay Magbabaya, our teachers at the Hilo Academy, and they took this photo of us. Anyhow, before I continue, does anyone want to share in the chat box what they know or think that Atang is? What is Atang? Let's see here. Jamie, can you read anything if anyone has said anything? Because I can't see the chat box right now.
It looks like there was a little bit of a lag, but a couple people wrote offerings.
Oh, awesome. Yes, yes.
Nourishment for ancestors, asking them to join.
Yes. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I believe atang is any kind of offering, but it is traditionally known as a food offering. A food offering. And so we have framed this knowledge sharing with you today to be around atang, and we will be talking about how to support you and in feeling empowered to work with and use our ancestral practices to care for yourselves every day, especially right now during quarantine. And these are things that you can continue to apply in your life. Develop these routines of ritual that can support your what might some people might say their self-care, but really it's just how do we be in ritual or ceremony every day. There are a lot of ways that you're probably already doing it without knowing that. And so we are here to affirm and encourage everyone that the things you're already practicing, say you're gardening or you have house plants, a lot of those things are already ways to be in connection with the Diwatas, the Anitos, the Encantos, and we're gonna share more about those three things today with you all. And this photo is one of our teachers I mentioned, Apu Adman, and myself. Without Reboso on in very hot Manila, I just and uh, and he is one of the main teachers and priest of the Luntiang Agama Shrine of Natural Healing Arts. Him and Lakay Magbabaya, and we want to, of course, honor them. They're going to be offering some online courses actually that we'll talk about more near the end, and can send that link out too. And so that's who that is in the photo. Anything else you want to add, Jamie?
I was just putting a couple links in the chat box
Cool.
that people could check it out. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that.
Great. Okay, everyone. So we're gonna start off with the Diwatas, who are our gods, goddesses, the deities, however you pronounce that, in the Philippines. And this photo here is actually from me and Jamie's initiation ceremony with Apu and Lakay, which was an unexpected turn of events for us. But we won't go into that today, but we did end up in being invited into initiation when we were with them. And we wanted to share this because this particular ceremony is to reveal who made the call. They told us that it was who makes the call of the Babaylan, which is a whole other workshop we could talk about, to you. And so in this ceremony, we learned which Diwatas made that call to each of us. And we had several reveal themselves to us. And this is what this particular ceremony was about. And we'll go into that just a little bit more in the next slide. Jamie, if there's any questions and stuff, will you let me know in the chat box? If there's stuff in the chat box, just because I can't see it right now. Cool.
I can do that.
Sweet.
Nothing so far.
Yeah. So in the Philippines, of course, we have many existing religions now, and we're focusing particularly today in terms of Diwatas and honoring Anitos and Encantos through the animism, the animist spirituality. And so that's simply put, is the belief that everything has a spirit or a soul. So plants, mountains, rocks, everything even inanimate objects could be believed to have, a life force. And so, of course, those practices and beliefs vary across different tribes and ethnic groups. And we won't go into a lot of detail about that, but we also welcome you if there's in your own lineages to share any of that if you have that knowledge and awareness. And some examples here in connection to that ceremony that we mentioned, we wanted to to acknowledge Lakapai, our what we would use with the language of English, our transgender Diwata, who embodies feminine and masculine spirit, equilibrium, goddess of fertility. And we also have on here Gugurang of Mount Mayon, who is one of my guides, a volcano Diwata. And I'm going to pass it on real quick to Jamie to talk about the other two Diwatas.
So one of the Diwata that showed up during my initiation ceremony at the Luntiangagama Shrine was Magbaya, and they're from the Bukidnon mythology in Mindanao. They're one of the creator Diwata. They're known for planning. So every time I have something that I need to plan, I try to ask for guidance or offer some kind of atang to this particular Diwata to help guide me in that journey. And then the other one I wanted to mention was Batala. And so Batala is from the Tagalog mythology, and I'm also Tagalog, so this is an important deity for me, and they're considered one of the supreme Diwata of that particular pantheon. They're also a creator Diwata and is involved in the creation myth of Tagalog. You might have heard Bahala na. It's a very common phrase that people say in Tagalog, and that comes from the name Batala. And Bahala na means let Batala take care of you. So I just also wanted to shout out the Aswang project. If you want more information on some of the Diwata and also like some of the Encantos as well, the Aswang project is online and free, and they're a good resource to just get more information about those topics.
Thank you. Is the slide still showing?
I think you might have to click into your click into it, Julz, because I think our captioning got cut off there for a second. I think you might have just like clicked out of it.
Apologies. Thank you for your patience. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Got it.
Oh. I am having a day. Okay. So we're going to talk about all the different offerings that you can do, create and give to the Diwatas, and what they really enjoy and prefer acts of service. And so by that we mean prayer or song or dance, or even like what we'll say community wellness. So taking care of each other. How are we taking care of each other right now during this global crisis? How are we showing up for one another? That also caring of each other and caring of self in that way is already connecting you to the Diwatas. And so that's again like that reminder, like you're already probably doing things that have you in connection. So now if this is new for you, you have now this awareness that you're always connected. You're always connected, and how is taking care of yourself and each other a reflection of, is also a reflection of the earth, right? How you take care of your spirit and body, and how you are feeling too, can be a reflection of what's going on with the earth, or how you yourself is a reflection to the earth. And in this photograph is the almusar herbal pills that we made with apu and lakai. There's a bunch of different plants that we worked with to make this, and we're not going to go into how to make these today, but we made them specifically for the folks who were impacted, who had to leave, and when Ta'al erupted. So it was for Ta'al relief, and we, in collaboration with Lakapati Philippines, which is like an LGBTQ Bakla-led organization, was one of the leading on the ground relief, Ta'al relief groups. And so they came by, and we gave them supplies and gave them these pills that we prepared for folks. And so that kind of example, and all the mutual aid happening now, all of that is in honor and in connection and offering to the Diwatas. Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Jamie?
Yeah, so even though we might be doing a lot of these things already, I think the important thing to note is your intention when doing them. Like if you are dedicating a practice to a particular Diwata, that is what makes it an Atang. It's not just doing it and then it just automatically pleases them. We want to build that relationship, and you're doing that, whatever that thing is, you're offering it in that Diwata's honor or in their name. Um, and you know, like even like a lot of us that are living in diaspora, we don't necessarily have the language or the stories to describe specific Diwata that are related to our heritage, and that's okay. We can still build that relationship. We can still call out to whoever the creator is in our particular pantheon or mythology. It doesn't you don't have to necessarily have all of that very specific information to still do these things. And when you're doing these offerings, it's also a great time to ask for guidance, to ask for blessings for a particular endeavor that you might be doing. Like I said before, like part of my relationship with Mogwabaya, the planner, is like I do good deeds. Like a lot of the things I'm planning right now are around mutual aid. I try to offer that to him as well, and just like, you know, like make that relationship with all of these different intersections. The more we're taking care of our Diwata, the more we're actually taking care of our communities and the communities that are that we might not be a part of, but we should still take care of anyways.
Yes. Thank you, Jamie. And just everything that you said, it's just a reminder of that reciprocity, right? We're giving to them and we're asking, but not in this way that we're like making wishes, right? It's just an energetic exchange between us and the Diwatas or the earth or whatnot, when you're doing this. So just remembering that full circle. Something that I like to do a lot, which I haven't been able to do a lot during quarantine, is if I'm at the ocean, I'm just like this to sing to the ocean, or when I'm in the water. That is a way to be in connection and to also to give offering. Yeah.
Julz, we had a question that from Sherry. And Sherry says, do you say something specific when doing the atang?
Just a moment. I need to take a quick drink of water. Let's say something specific. Good question. Thank you for that question. My answer to that is to trust your intuition. There is no right or wrong way to pray, which is one of my elders, Karina Walters, always told us. Um, she said that, and it's hard. And I acknowledge, and I will share just in my experience. It takes a lot of time, a long time to move through the the not knowing, what to say, maybe even the shame that comes up of not of trying to figure out like what it means to give offering or to pray. And with Atang, depending on what it is for, you can focus it on that. So I will give an example. If it was my grandmother's birthday, my inang, I would prepare food that she liked, put it on my ancestor altar, and just say some words of gratitude about her to her, and give thanks in that way. Just really speak from your heart. I really believe that's what speaking from your heart, speaking what comes up, being okay with not being perfect about it. It's okay if you don't know. It's okay to say I don't know what to say, but I made this food offering for you, and and knowing that that's enough. Just always know it's enough, whatever intention and action that comes forth with that. Even if it's not food, if you created something, I know here, there's a lot of weaving. Like while you're weaving, you can be praying, you're already in connection, um, to your ancestors, to the Diwatas, and to the Encantos, if that's your intention. I hope this answers your question. I could go on and on, but I'm gonna make sure I stop myself.
Can I add something, Julz?
Yeah, of course.
So one of the things that has been really beautiful, but also a little bit intimidating and a little bit frustrating about learning some of these traditions is that they're actually very intuitive. So it's not necessarily about following a specific script. Um, like I was raised Christian. It's not something that I practice anymore, but I was used to having like a very specific protocol for doing certain things when trying to interact with the divine. And like what I've learned from my teachers is that we have to like, it's a lot of listening to what's around us. It's a lot of training yourself to be open, and that can be difficult. That was difficult for me because I'm used to having more structure around that. Yep, that's all I got to say about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, well, our next slide, we like to offer a lot of, breaks. So if you need to stretch, go to the bathroom, get more snacks, please do that in the next 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, we'll start again in about 3 minutes. So just, stretch your body, grab a snack. Please don't eat your altar atang because we're going to talk more about that later.
You're gonna get sick. Don't do that right now. Okay. I will be back.
Nice one. Good break.
Awesome. Okay, I don't know if everyone's back, but that's okay. There we go. Cute cat. All right, we're gonna move on now to our Anitos. Jamie.
Hi, everyone. I don't think I actually properly introduced myself at the beginning.
That's okay.
I'm Jamie Pineda. I'm going to introduce myself now. I use he, him pronouns. The spiritual name that was given to me at my initiation ceremony is Gat Ubaya Nagsalad, which means keeper of the sacred fiber of life. What you're looking at now is actually a picture of my grandma and baby me. So she is with the ancestors now. She has been a guiding spirit with me, throughout my life. And so we're going to start talking about Anitos. So Anitos also, you can call them Ninuno. That's another name that they can go by. I've also seen different sources where Anitos is also referring to what I would consider Encanto, which is like nature spirits, things like that. But for the purposes of organizing this presentation, I'm just going to refer to them as Anitos, our ancestors. And I use the term ancestors pretty broadly. I like to include folks that are not necessarily related to us as well, just because we might not know our blood family, or we might not have a good relationship with our blood family, does not mean that we don't have a connection, or we can't have a connection to ancestors. For folks out there who are trans, we call them transcestors. The trans folks who came before us. We have queer ancestors who are still family, if not blood family. We also have our chosen family, and we have ancestors we don't know the names of. They're still there, even though we might not know what to call them. And we also have ancestors that we interact with that are related to the places where we live, the places where we work, the land that we're on. Even though they're not from our particular lineage, we still need to have a good relationship with them. We still need to honor them. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide was maybe one of my favorite days when we went on our trip to the Philippines, me and Julz. So this is a picture of a boodle fight. So if you don't know what that is, it's where we lay out big banana leaves, and then we put food all in it, and we have a big feast. And you're, kamayan, you're eating with your hands. It's super delicious. And you're just sharing food communally. And I loved it. I mean, we went to our teacher's home and we spent time with their families, and just had a big feast together. And in the second photo, when we're doing any kind of offering, we want to make food offering, we want to make sure nothing goes to waste. So it needs to nourish us, it needs to nourish the environment around us. And so the dogs that were at the home also got to partake in the feast with us. It's really wonderful. So when we're honoring our ancestors, the atang that they love the most is food. Whenever I talk to any Filipino, probably one of the first things that we talk about is food. I mean, even in my prep call for this webinar, we were already talking about snacks that we wanted to eat that were actually not related to the atang. Like, food is so important to us because it has a spiritual place. Food in diaspora, it connects us to our families, it connects us to our ancestors, it connects us to our histories. Our recipes are like our history books. So if we think of something like arroz caldo, which is a rice porridge, I think goto is another name for it. This dish exists in many different places in Asia with a little bit of variation, right? So we have like kanji in China. So the Ilocano word for it is ugao. And then we have like juk in Korea, and then Philippines we have arroz caldo. And I think it's interesting because it shows our relationship to these other areas and these other traditions. But then it also has a Spanish name. So there's that imprint of colonialism on top of this food that is often seen as a very traditional Filipino food. So that's that's one example where we're connecting histories and ancestry, and we also use that as medicine. Whenever I ask people about which Filipino dish they find that they go to first when they feel ill, it's usually arroz caldo. I mean, I think that even if we're not like medical practitioners, we know that there's something in the garlic, something in the ginger, something in the chicken bone broth and the onions that is like healing to us. Like we can feel that it's nourishing. So when we're expanding on that idea of food nourishing our bodies, we can use that as ritual. Like our bodies are what our ancestors gave us. Even if I'm thinking about my transcestors, my queer ancestors, a lot of their fight is what helps me exist today in this body, in this form. So nourishing my body, staying alive, staying fed, it honors them as well. Anitos also love when we share food as a group. This is a communal experience. We don't usually just, it's not as fun to just like eat alone in silence. Like we want it to be a collective activity. A little, so someone commented in the chat box that rice was imported in recent centuries too, and we started out with root vegetables. So there's even more history there of how rice is present for us. And so my altar suggestion, certainly not the only way that you can use food in your offerings, is to use your plate as an altar. Like build that meal and think about what the stories are that went into bringing that food to you. Build that meal and make it an offering to your ancestors. Make it an offering to yourself. Like it is self-care, it's community care, it's also ancestor care. And if we relate it back to the previous section where we're talking about the Diwata, preparing food is also an act of service, right? So for preparing, we're feeding other people. If you're out there engaged in mutual aid groups, like maybe you're running groceries for people, maybe you're dropping off hot meals for folks who can't get out to feed themselves. Or maybe you're just like, you know, cooking dinner for your partner who's really tired because they had a really rough day at work. So I definitely, in my personal practice, I think I would take something like food justice as an issue that would honor the Anitos and the Diwata and our communities. I'm noticing that intuitively, a lot of us are doing this already. Like we're like eating and cooking communally through social media. Like people are posting all of their sourdough bread on Instagram, and I think that's wonderful. It is illustrating to me this innate need to like have this communal experience around food. In my notes, oh yeah. So I wanted to talk about rice as being a very transformative substance, even though it's something that entered our diets later and wasn't necessarily a native food. It is very important now. So a lot of folks might consider rice to be a dead food because white rice is so processed, it won't necessarily sprout anything. But when we look at it, there's so much life and so much purpose that you can get out of rice. So you can ferment it into probiotics. You can, I don't know if any of you have done this. I've had to do it. You can use it as glue. Like I've definitely had moments where my parents were like, we're not buying you glue, so here's some rice. You can you can use the sticky rice water as a natural paraffin for your hands. You can char it and then brew it as a sort of coffee drink. You can make rice milk out of it. You can use the water from washing your rice to create a disinfectant. The lactic acid that builds up when you ferment it is actually a pretty effective disinfectant. You can also use the rice water to soak feet in for nerve damage. So there's a lot of purposes in the food where we can build things, bring life to things, protect each other. Yeah, a lot of stories and information there. Okay, next slide, please. So this is a photo. This is a series of photos of me and Julz with our teacher making lana. So lana is a type of medicinal oil in the Philippines, and it is made traditionally using coconut oil. So you can see in the first photo, it's just straight up coconut milk that we got for the palenque, which is like a marketplace, outdoor marketplace. And there's fresh herbs in it. So it has ginger, it has lemongrass and turmeric. And then as you boil it, the oil and the solids from the coconut milk start to separate. And then at the very end here, you see that little dish. That's just the straight infused oil, the decoction. So our bodies can also be seen as altars and connecting to the ancestors, right? So there are different ways of nourishing our bodies. We can use pleasure, we can use exercise. If you put on makeup, that's a way of nourishing your body and decorating this altar. Lana is one of those things. We can use it for many different ways. First off, we can use it to anoint ourselves. So you can just anoint yourself. It's just like, put it on your power spots. Sometimes people put it on their third eye, put it on places that maybe don't feel so good or might need some extra love. I'm also a Chinese medicine practitioner as well. So sometimes I rub lana on different acupuncture points. I've been rubbing it a lot on the chest because the chest is places where we hold grief a lot of times. And right now there's a lot of things to grieve and to heal over. And this medicine can also be taken internally as well as externally. I will share a funny story. So Apu, my teacher, had a patient who decided to use this as lube. I would not recommend that. Ginger is spicy. So please just use it on your skin, or you can eat it, and don't put it inside anywhere else. So even though a lot of these materials are readily accessible to a lot of folks, if you don't have access to coconut oil, you don't have access to lemongrass or whatever, use what you have. Like our medicine is very adaptable. It's also very intuitive. I mean, obviously, do your research. Make sure you're using things that are body safe or edible if you are planning on ingesting it. But use your dried herbs, that you have in your kitchen. Use some olive oil or whatever oil you have on hand. Right now, I live in DC, so lana is a little bit harder to use in the wintertime because the coconut oil gets hard because it's too cold. So if you live in colder climates and you want more of like a liquid texture, feel free to use olive oil or something that stays liquid at colder temperatures. We can also use the lana as an alarm system. So when you have if you have like jars of lana, and you can station them in the entrances of your house or by the windows, and if there are like harmful entities nearby, you might notice the top of the lana will start to bubble. And that is just like an indication that there's something in your house that you probably don't want that can be harmful. If you, again, live somewhere really cold, this is not going to work so well with coconut oil because it's going to be solid. So adapt to the environment that you're in. You can also use the oil as an amulet and put it in like a small vial and wear it around your neck so that you can use that power oil whenever you need it. And you can also check that little amulet to see if there's any bubbles that are in it and if there's any entities that are near you that could be harmful.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, there were a couple questions. I can read them off if y'all if that works.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that would
okay.
be
So
helpful.
there were a couple questions. I'm gonna scroll back here. One was Anthony wanted to know, are there any ratios that you followed to make the lana, or is it just, you know, you go for whatever? And
Uh-huh.
then a second question was, what about using essential oils?
Ah,
And there's a couple more, so go for those first.
Can I
so go ahead, Julz.
okay. Then okay. I wanted to say to that the ratio thing. Um Folk medicine. You know how like when we make food, Filipino food or maybe any most food, I guess, that's not that doesn't have like a written recipe. A lot of that really stems from how we make folk medicine. It's intuitive, right? You're like say that you had a homie who's not Filipino was asking how to make adobo, like chicken adobo or pork adobo or whatever, and they're like asking for measurements, and you're like, I don't know. Like connect that to how we make our medicine. Of course, in Western herbalism, there will be ratios, but even here, or in other ways that you might be working with plants, the folk medicine way is to just go intuitively, just feel it out and work with it in that way. Um, Here, I'm pretty sure that's how we did it. I mean, that's how I've done it with like one of my mentors who um, does Philippine ancestral medicine, Angela Angel, who's going to be offering that workshop in June, I think, that Rebecca will probably plug later. Um, and so that's just make that connection there. Essential oils. You can put a couple drops of essential oil in the lana if you want, um, for scent or for maybe additional medicinal properties. I personally do not work with essential oils very much because it requires so much plant matter. You know, it takes like 50 flowers just to make that essential oil, and I don't know if people always know that. It's not it's not the most eco-friendly thing, essential oils, but it is everywhere. Um, and That's not to say not to use them, but just know if you didn't know that, like to be mindful of essential oils and how that has been commodified and used in such a way. And so I recommend people to instead work with flower essences, which is a whole other thing. But with essential oils, you could put a couple drops, but I don't think it's necessary. And that's just on that, just the ethical, eco conscious thing, essential oils. We didn't necessarily have essential oils in our folk medicine. The flower essences or plant essences is just very much about taking is getting the vibration of the flower in water, um, and, and that's a whole other thing that we could always talk about another time more in depth. But that's my answer about that. Do you want to say anything else, Jamie?
Um, so when I'm cooking, when I'm making herbs and I'm not using like a specific recipe, I really try to use my senses, my body, um, and also like like whatever like knowledge that I have about what I'm working with. So when kind of as a general rule, uh, really aromatic herbs really like go to the surface of the body or higher up in the body, like they like target the nose and the chest. So if that is an area that I'm wanting to emphasize in whatever I'm making, I might put more of that herb in there. Um, and you can like when you're working with herbs, you can also like test it, see how it actually affects your body. and then make adjustments based on that. Turmeric is really good for muscle pain. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's good for joints, and it's very warming. So if I'm making the oil with the intention of working on pain, I might use more turmeric in the formula. If I am making the oil, I mean, you know, ginger is actually also good for pain as well. If I'm thinking of more digestive concerns, I might actually add more ginger in the proportions that I'm using. So it's adaptable. Like, have whatever you're making respond to what you actually need it for. And you know, it's fine to just do research on what you're working with. Like, for some folks, it is really easy to pick up on the information with the plant and to communicate in that way. I'm not great at talking to plants. I kill all my house plants. I usually need assistance in that area. So I just read about it. Like, I have training as an herbalist in Chinese medicine, so that's how I know some of these things. So I do use my intuition on how to build things, but also like other ways of getting knowledge are great too.
I'm just
And
gonna
then,
jump in. Oh, sorry, Jamie.
oh, go
I
ahead.
just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure, Jules, can you grab our captions back on there just if we can? Because I don't see them scrolling across the bottom. I just want to make sure that if we can have them back. Oh, and then sorry, Jamie, to interrupt you. You can continue. And there are a couple other questions, but if you wanted to add something, go ahead.
Oh, I think that's good. What was the next question? I'm trying to scroll back.
Oh yeah, the next question I think was, can you give an example of how to do an offering to Anitos as an everyday ritual?
So your everyday rituals don't have to be very dramatic. Like, it could literally be making your breakfast. Like, make your champurrado, like put it in a bowl, make it beautiful. You know, make it as if you're gonna actually like serve this to an honored guest who, you know, you are really, through yourself. So that's how I approach many of my meals. Sometimes I will say a small prayer before actually consuming the food. Yeah, I mean, my prayers are often actually not verbal. Like, it's the act of doing something, the intention, the energy that I put into it.
There was also
Yeah.
another question of what was in the lana, which was, I think someone said lemongrass, turmeric, and ginger. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mari Carr also wanted to know, interesting about catching the bad energy in the house or place in the lana jar. So how would you then dispose of the bad energy or the oil? How do you sort of, yeah, navigate that when you get the bubbles or something like that?
And give it to the plants, give it back to the earth to cleanse. So you can put it into the ground, you can bury it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone. Oh, sorry,
You
Jules, go
also
ahead.
um, you don't always have to. You can dispose of the oil, but again, like, and I think Jamie, did you say this? Like, like you don't always have to dispose, because if you see it bubbling, it doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to capture whatever is there, but it's alerting you that there might be something there. So it can also be situational.
Yeah.
And whether it's extreme, like you need to call a healer to come over and dispel whatever spirits might be there, or you might already just be aware and figure it out on your own. But that is also, I think, another um, conversation to have around how to work with that, how to not deal with it, but what to do if that happens. Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification, Jules. Yeah, there is a difference if something's just alerting you versus if it's actually like trapped in the jar.
Okay, there's another question from Nikki. Do any of you guys tuning in help make lana during Good Friday? And also just a lot of confirmation that folks are kind of using their intuition to cook and kind of like, you know, be experimental with ratios and stuff like that. So a lot of people said that they do that too.
I don't observe Good Friday, so I don't really plan anything around it.
Yeah, and I bet a lot of people here, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, maybe you'll try it sometime, but you know, you can make lana anytime. It could even just be the coconut oil. When we made this, we literally got the coconut milk was made from the meat directly from the coconut, and um that's how we did it. But you can get a jar of coconut, right? It's so in abundance, so over harvested, right? Unfortunately, but coconut oil and salt are two very sacred medicines for us. Just remember that, you know, whether in cooking, whether in medicine, having a bowl of water with salt, boiling hot water, putting in a bowl with salt water is a great way of protection if you're going to be doing ritual. You could like wash your hands with it. You can use it to anoint and bless your space. Salt is always very protective and neutralizing energy um, in that way too.
So I'm going to read just a couple more comments and then I think we can keep going. But Nikki, Lucayo responding to Nikki says that my elders have told me to gather herbs on Good Friday. And I think that works best if one also still works with saints and angels from the Christian pantheon, but you don't have to identify as Christian. And then Lucayo also mentions that they use the lana for a warning system and Wali's ting ting and a stingray tail for cleansing what's there in the lana. July says that they use a sweetgrass version, like a mini Walis Ting Ting for clearing. And it came from a Kanyan Kahaka person from Tiendinaga in Ontario. Lucayo also mentions that the holy times of many of my pre-colonial ancestors are during the new and full moon. So they make lana during that time when I don't want to gather during Holy Week. And I personally too, also, if I'm making something, some kind of infusion in oil, I'll do it during new moon, gathering during full moon times. So there's, I think, a lot of just different indigenous practices in many places go on that moon schedule. So that's kind of like a good default to go to, I feel like. I mean, I'm also not an expert, but from the people that I learned from, that's what I've been told. And I've also been working with coconut and like the grating of the coconut and the working with the coconut itself and just you know, boiling it down into oil. Like my auntie was just like, yeah, you just take the coconut, you blend it up in the blender, and then you just boil it down. It's really not as hard as it kind of seems, right? Like making lana is like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do this whole thing. But really, if you can just boil it up, you're
it's
good.
easy. Yeah, I mean, I don't have access to whole coconuts, but I get what I can, and right now that's like coconut oil that's already pre-made, and then just infusing that with the herbs that I have. But if you do have access to a coconut, save the husk. You can use the hairs from the husk as kind of like an incense. You can use that smoke to clear the space. So that's a different way to kind of dispel negative energy as well.
Yeah, and on that tip, you know, I know that there's a lot of access or you know visibility of you know Native American traditions of burning plants, like smudging with sage and whatnot. And I've seen people um, with the bayabas leaves, the guava leaves, as as one of our ways. But just a reminder that smoke cleansing or smoke from plants isn't the only way we can protect and cleanse ourselves. Like water is a big thing. Like I said earlier, water and salt water. You could put salt water, you could put sea salt and water in a jar, in a spray bottle, and spray yourself with it as a cleansing. You don't have to only burn things, burn plants, and burn bayabas leaves. And I don't know, I'm not an expert in bayabas leaves. What I know is it's mostly for birth. And I'm not saying not to use it for cleansing, but just to know that we have other options, especially with water. And so remember that. Remember to work with water. Water also just helps invoke and gives us that nourishing energy of that feminine energy, and fire is the masculine energy. And so we want to be in balance. And so just remember to work with water too. Anything else?
No more questions right now if you all want to keep going, but people are also just saying that coconut husks as a smudge. I think July learned that from Lucayo, and that calamansi juice mixed with water is also good as a cleansing spray.
That is great.
Beautiful. Get those
Okay.
packets. Okay, there you go.
Wait, Julz, go back one slide, please.
What did I miss? Oh.
Just one slide. There you go. So I just wanted to mention one more way to nourish ourselves and in turn nourish our ancestors. And there is a traditional type of body work in the Philippines that I think originated with Ilocos farmers called dagdagay. And it's really painful, but actually really good.
Oh, hurts so good.
Yeah. Thank you, Julz. Julz has the sticks that we use to do this. So it originated with farmers who would work outside in the fields all day, and then when they got home, then their kids would do a massage with these sticks to help clean the feet, pick out any like dirt or rocks or whatever that might have been stuck to them. And part of that dagdagay body work is that you soak the feet in a water decoction with herbs. And one of the traditional herbs that's in there is lemongrass. So this lemongrass is also good for anxiety, which a lot of us might be experiencing right now. And anxiety, it helps bring the energy down. Doing foot soaks is very grounding. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about feet is because our feet are what helps connect us to the earth, which is related to the encantos. It is also diagnostic. So if you're stubbing your toes a lot, if you're tripping on things, it's showing that you're disconnected from the earth, you're disconnected from your body. That is easy to happen if your mind is racing with a lot of things, you have a lot of stuff to do, you're thinking about a lot of whatever. Or honestly, like when I'm dissociating, like I stub my toes a lot. Like I'm not in my body, I'm somewhere else. And soaking your feet, paying attention to your feet, massaging your feet with lana is a good way to bring yourself back into your body, to call yourself home, to just pay attention to yourself and do some self-care. And in turn, that is also honoring to the ancestors. Okay, so that's what that was the last part I wanted to talk about with the Anitos.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. Were there more questions? Okay.
I don't think there are any questions right now, but Lucayo also suggests that if you can't get coconut husk, there's also coconut incense. So if that's hard for you to find. Also good reminder to work with water. And then they were wondering about the spelling of dagdagay. Is it dagdag like hyphen I? Is it dagdagay, one word? I mean, I guess it's essentially that dag.
I think either could work out, right? Because our languages are by sound, even with our writing systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can spell it however you want, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder also if I'm not sure what dagdag is in terms of the like the root word of that. I don't. Maybe someone on here, maybe Manang Marianella could give us. It's probably something like squeezing, or it's a repetitive.
I'll look in. In our on our break. I'll look in my book. In
Awesome.
our book, if we have that. Yeah.
Cool.
Anything else, Jamie?
Nope, that's it.
Whoop.
All right, everyone, take a 3-minute break. Stretch, get some water, get a snack if you need to, look away from your screen, rest your eyes. We'll see you in a few minutes.
All right, everyone, we're coming back here. I'm gonna actually share my screen and drive. Oh, wait, just kidding. Oh, hold up. Let's see if I can do this. Give me 1 second here. All right, let me see if I can do this. Let's try. Is that where we are? I think it is.
Yes.
Okay, just want to double check. And then I'm just gonna make sure because I can see our chat in here too. I know it's hard to get all the windows
It's
to
really hard.
somehow be like, I'm sorry, this is gonna be weird for a second. Wait 1 second. We were here. And yeah, I think I'm gonna, Anthony, maybe tap you in to be our chat person because for some reason it's hard for me to see the chat. But I think we got captions back and I think we're good. So if y'all want to continue, I'm gonna mute myself. Here we go.
Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna.
Can I just add one thing really quick? Because I looked it up in the dictionary. I have Manong Aghuili's Fat Ilocano Dictionary right here. And I just wanted to share that dagdag is described as the act of hurrying, hastening, urging, rushing, impelling to action, exerting, pushing for, or motivating, or pressing. So I think it's a pressing action. Just wanted to add that. So dagdag.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, from what we learned, it is a practice among Ilocano and Igorot people, but I bet that it existed across it that it does exist across all the islands. Thank you. So we're gonna be on the next slide for Encantos, Rebecca. Thank you. Awesome. So the Encantos, there are the nature spirits or elements, elementals. You can think of them as fairies or dwarves, duendes, aswang, manananggal, tikbalang. We're not gonna go too much into it, but if folks do know or want to share anything about any of the encantos more in detail, please do so in the chat, or if you are somebody with a wealth of knowledge around any of that. And what I'm going to talk about today with the encantos is how we are in relationship with them. And so the way we want to share about this knowledge is around permission and connection and consent. And so thinking of, say you are entering, you're going on a hike or a walk, you're entering a forest, you want to ask permission. Same thing like if you're visiting someone's home or you're literally in nature, a visitor to their home. And so that's why you hear people say, at least for me being Ilocano, we would say like bari bari apo, you are excusing yourself, you are asking permission to pass through. I say a little more than that. I'll say my name that I'm visiting. I come with respect and permission. I say it. I also say it when I'm at a cemetery, anywhere that's not where I dwell in a home space. I will say that. I even say that when I'm walking down my walkway with the heliconia, because when I don't, they smack me in the face because I haven't acknowledged them. And so it's a very real thing. And so when you hear, if you've ever heard about people getting sick, there are many reasons why people might get sick, but sometimes it might be because a spirit, an encanto was disrespected or disturbed. They usually are just they're minding their own business, and we are the ones that have encroached on their home. And so I know there are other ways to say bari bari apo across the islands, and just like a story I'll share. Um, in 2012, I was invited to enter the Sumaging Caves in Sagada. with one of the local people there of the Kankana'oi people, the tribe there. Um, and this, I don't know how common it is to go fully through the caves. It's like 7-8 hours, but at the entrance there were coffins there, and they bury their people in a fetal position. And the coffins have the lizard um, on carved on top. Anyway, that's one of my guardians. So I, especially because I, as far as I know, I'm Ilocano, I did what I knew, asked for permission, all of that. But even so, a spirit followed me, and I got sick. Um, and so the spirits, the encantos will also follow you if they also know you're somebody who is aware of them, who might be a healing practitioner. And so that's also something to note, because there were plenty of tourists around who were not asking permission and whatnot. I still got followed and I got sick um on 12 12 12 in all of that. And so that's a whole, I won't go into all those details, but so that's just another example of just how you want to be in to be in right relationship with the earth, with all the spirits, and just remember that there are always spirits around, whether the Diwatas, the Anitos, the Encantos. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So preferred offerings, growing food, house plants, and again, like I was talking about that permission. Um, it's important to ask and give offering. For example, if you want to take a flower, if you are attracted toward the flower for the scent or the color, um, or some other plant that you want to work with, always ask for permission. Have you ever noticed if you tried to pluck a flower or plant and it didn't come off easily? It's either you didn't ask, or when you asked, you weren't listening and they said no. And so that's part of developing your intuition of working with the plants, because both the plant and then the encanto that might be living there is basically telling you not to take it, and ask another plant and tell them what you want to do with it. Do you want to come home with me and and be part of this bath I'm going to take for cleansing, things like that. um and then and back to like the growing food and all that. So even just supporting local farmers, people who are growing food in your area, like that is also just a way to be in connection and giving offering to the encantos, and just always integrating and uplifting your relationship to the earth in the best ways that you can, whether you're in a very urban landscape or if you're in the countryside or what have you. Always develop a relationship to the land you're on. Always give acknowledgement to the the land, the spirits there, the indigenous people who are from that land. Those ancestors, those spirits are still there. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Jamie?
Yeah, so I think that like definitely, we want to practice consent culture around the encantos and other entities around us. Um, I don't want us to necessarily be afraid of encanto. Like they're only really harmful to humans if there is an imbalance in nature around them, or in the nature that relates to them. Um, Plants are homes for encantos, so uh, when we give them a proper environment to flourish in, they won't bother you. It really is about like keeping balance around you and being a good steward to the land. But mostly they're concerned with, their own stuff. They're not trying to interfere with humans just because they feel like it.
Yeah, yeah, they're not. I mean, sometimes there are some playful spirits. Just really depends on you. I have a lot of young spirits that are always around me, messing with me and stuff. So I will will give offering or whatnot. Maybe they're encantos, maybe they're anitos. And in time you can develop and discern what that might mean to you. Kayo says, in Cavite, other areas of pre-colonial Philippines, folks were hung from or buried in the hollowed out trunks of trees. So anitos were not trees too. Yes. Amazing. Beautiful. Yeah, everything is all interconnected. Thank you. In connection to Encantos, and Lucayo mentioned this with the stingray tail. I have a stingray tail. And if you had access to a stingray tail, like while it's still fresh, putting it into a jar of lana, it actually continues to grow. But that is another, like, it's another form of an alarm system. And in my family, my grandmother did that. She had a stingray tail in a jar because that's what she used for protection, and it exploded once. So she knew that there was somebody coming. She was very Catholic, but very, very native in her traditions. And she had that belief, that I think, yeah, is across the islands, if that's a practice to other specific people. She had that there specifically for protection from aswang, even though it was all the way up in like Isabela. And I thought, I didn't know, that I thought aswang was just down south, but she had a stingray tail and in a jar all the time. So yeah.
Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to go ahead like that. I just wanted to jump in and say that we have about, there we go. Maybe like 18 minutes left, and we wanted to leave a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. So just giving you guys a time check right there.
Sure, thank
Great.
you.
So I'll talk a little bit on this slide, and I'll make it quick. So I just created this Venn diagram to show how the different kinds of offerings, atang, relate to each other, and to just show that relationship between the Diwata, Anitos, and Encantos. This is certainly not the only way that they can be connected to each other, but food is so central to our cultural practices. I just wanted to show it here, like, my ideas of maybe why it's so central, because it relates to our Diwata, it relates to our Anitos, and it relates to the Encantos. So feel free, if this is a helpful tool for you for creating your own rituals, go ahead and use it. Yeah. So we're supposed to have another quick break, but I want to skip that since we're a little bit short on time. And I just wanted to emphasize, I said this earlier, but everything is prayer. So everything you do can be infused with your intention. Everything from like preparing your morning coffee to make that an atang, to like helping your neighbor carry their groceries, that can be an atang as well. If we infuse it with our intentions and relate it to our ancestors or diwata or encanto. So now is the time to take out your atang. If you still have it, hopefully. Take out your food atang. We're going to do a short ritual together. So go ahead and just hold this atang in your hand. Thinking about feeding your ancestors by feeding your body. Think about the gratitude that you have for how the food came to you. There's my atang right here. The farmers that grew it, the delivery drivers that brought it to you, the clerks or whatever. Right now, take a bite of your atang and savor it. Sorry, I totally picked like the loudest food to eat on a Zoom call. I apologize.
What is it? ASMR. Ooh,
Oh yeah, ASMR.
thank you.
So now is the time while you have your atang to dedicate it to someone, dedicate it to a Diwata you might have a relationship with, or dedicate it to one of your ancestors. Uh, you can also do a petition or a blessing around it, or ask for a petition or a blessing from these different entities. So I am going to share my offering and what I'm thinking of, and I invite folks if they want to join in this particular blessing that they can. So I am offering this atang to the folks that were recently joined the ancestors because of police brutality. So the most recent person being that we know of being George Floyd. Also, we have Tony McDade, who is a Black trans person in Florida. It's not Florida. Yeah, Tallahassee, who died recently. Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. I dedicate this to them who are now with the ancestors. May we find justice for them. And I pray that the impact of our actions match our intentions. And I ask for guiding and support, guiding in how I offer support for Black folks in their fight for liberation in Minneapolis and everywhere. So join me again, take another bite of your atang, infuse whatever prayers or blessings or petitions you have. And let's just take a minute of silence and reflection for these folks, for these recent ancestors. Thank you for joining me in that. Go ahead and call yourselves back. If folks want to share some of their prayers or intentions or blessings that they asked for in the chat box, feel free to do so. Also, if you want to share what you brought for Atang, that's also great. I want to give folks a few references that they can check out or for a little bit more information. So one of them was the Aswang Project, which I mentioned before. Another book that I'm reading through that has a lot of information on encantos and other like creatures in the Philippine mythology is The Creatures of Philippine Lower Mythology by Maximo D. Ramos. It has a lot of information, but I think that we should have an analysis when we read this book because there is stuff in it that is fairly that's anti-Black. A lot of the demonic influences and like harmful entities are described as being darker skinned or like looking like a black, there's literally like descriptions in here of monsters that look like black men. That is, you know, I think that's something that we really should have an analysis around. We should really think about what kinds of implicit bias that we have in our own culture, and how we are connected to, how we should be connected to the struggles of Black folks everywhere. Yeah. Oh, thank you for posting that, Julz. Yeah, our teacher is also going to be hosting classes online at heloacademy.com. They're wonderful, super queer and trans affirming and welcoming folks. Really, really fun and engaging teachers. And just to reiterate, these rituals, they don't have to be super fancy. You can make a ritual out of anything. This is like very ordinary but powerful everyday kinds of magic. And, you know, take care of yourselves, take care of the communities around you. Yeah. Thank you very much for being part of this today.
Thank you. I know that, you know, we answered questions like on the spot as we flowed through this. So if there's any other questions, we can go with that. But before we kind of go into that Q&A, I just want to, just because we're in this energy right now, just kind of give like a short formal closing of this circle, and then we can stick around just to have more of that Q&A. And so just thank you, Jamie, for all of that beautiful energy and intention and prayer, and everyone for being with us today with your atangs. I just want to again give thanks to the ancestors and spirits of where we all dwell. Give thanks to all the elements, directions, Diwatas, Anitos, and Cantos for being with us. We send you with love and care and respect to where you are headed next. Thank you for your guidance and wisdom and protection. Thank you to anyone that each of you called in with you today, to call yourselves back, to send any energies that are not yours back to the earth or to where they came from. We formally close this circle energetically as we move forward to do this Q&A. Thank you always. Thank you and all my relations. Thank you. Yeah, let's answer a few more questions if anything. Oh yeah, you're welcome, y'all. Okay. Anybody?
I just want to take a moment to just acknowledge Julz and Jamie for taking the time to do this. So maybe we could do like just you could do a Zoom applause or any kind of love or sharing that you want to do. Thumbs up is good too. I'm going to bring us back. I'm going to stop my share here and just bring us back into like the communal room. So if anyone feels like they can ask questions in the chat, but if you're feeling called to unmute yourself and speak, that's great too. If you want to use your voice or any kind of acknowledgement, everyone would appreciate that. Okay, there is a question here. I think it's from Jessie. I might be asking this the wrong way, but I've seen Encanto used as a way to blame folks for unfortunate situations that they're in. So how do we not perpetuate that?
Wow, that just reminds me of the I don't want to even call it a culture. There's so much shame. There's so much shame in Filipino culture, right? Of blaming and shaming almost anything and everyone, right? When I see that, I think about how can we now, knowing this, you know, just be in alignment or walk the walk, right? And know that that the Encanto, now you know, like it's not necessarily the Encanto. It's almost like you can't, if you're blaming the Encanto, man, I think you're gonna be like really drawing some bad energy towards yourself. And I think that it's situational, and you might have to choose your battles and sit down with those folks in your family who might be blaming folks, telling them that, using the encantos to blame them, like to really have a bigger perspective about why that situation might have happened. I think it really depends. And how I like to invite people in to challenge them is to ask them a question. Like, why do you feel that way, or why do you think it happened? Like, I'll answer with a question, even if they might be kind of intense about it or defensive or whatever, so that they'll realize, hopefully, if you're able to hold that space in that way, why they said that. Why do you think that? Or why do you think that's that way? Because then people will start to realize and question their own belief system of something. And hopefully that, at least for me, has worked to educate in that type of way, and how to talk about this. I know that's kind of, I don't know if that's kind of a vague answer. Jamie, did you want to say anything?
So I think like intuition is also great, but we also have to put actions behind that and actively educate ourselves. So for me, like part of my decolonizing work is like trying to decolonize the way I think about things. So like I think about like implicit biases that I might have, and trying to do my work around that. If I'm like blaming Encantos for different things all the time, it's also like, well, if Encantos are being harmful, and it's based on like an imbalance in their environment, like what was my role in that? Like what was the role of other communities in that? We have to think about like all of how all of those things relate. And I don't like to think of those necessarily as just like straight up punishment that happened for no reason.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could go on and on. Just like a lack of accountability, right? To self or what have you, scapegoating. Um, and hopefully, what we shared can be some help. Anybody else? How can we develop a stronger intuition or communication with the ancestors? I always tell people it's just practice flexing your prayers. I tell people like, it literally is like, I'm always talking to myself, but not really. I'm like talking to whoever I can't see. It's really like, yeah, I'm babbling to myself all the time. Really be in practice of, I like talking to plants and flowers a lot. I'm totally that person, like talking to the like hibiscus, and like I just have my face up in the trees and the bush. It's just allow yourself to be playful. Allow your inner child to come through. A lot of our intuition has been really like hammered out of us as we grew up through adolescence and adulthood. Um, all the judgments or what have you, all the conditionings that we experience. So root back into child self in playfulness and joy, because that's really how you can really access your intuition, and how you'll be able to combat the mind that tries to override, that has so deeply dominated the intuition. You'll learn to discern your intuition and your instincts from to push your mind aside, um, and so being practiced in that way. So if you're able to talk to plants, that's one way. Just talk to them. Talk to them like you would be in conversation with a human. And remember that there are many ways to communicate, and see and hear, that are not in the maybe like logical or linear way that we know of in this mortal realm. You'll begin to notice sometimes at random times you'll get messages. And so it's really a practice of being okay, of not knowing. Just be okay not knowing, and be okay making those mistakes, being silly, feeling silly about it. And it's really, I feel like, what I can offer around that with your intuition. um Jamie.
So Jules, I'm actually going to bring up a recommendation that you gave to me,
Oh,
uh, which was to have a daily meditation ritual of some kind. And so I do that actually, like every evening at the same time every day. I have a meditation ritual that I've created for myself, and you can have that be whatever works for you. It doesn't have to look like what I do, but this has been helpful. So I actually I pull a tarot card um, every night to just reflect on and to interpret and see if there's any themes that are coming up in my life that are relevant. It's a tool for me to just have some introspection and to listen to whatever guidance might come through. So some of you might have seen this, but it's the Kapwa Tarot. Oops. That Janalyn created. I don't know if she's still selling it or not, but
it just sold out recently, but she's
oh,
always
okay,
yeah.
cool. Like you don't have to use that, but you can, like, use what you have. But I pull a card um every night, and I just think about what that brings up for me. I also really like this tool because it's uh the names of the different cards are written in Tagalog, and I only speak Taglish, honestly. Like, I grew up in the States, so my Tagalog's really limited. Um, and this is the descriptions of the card meanings is actually a really easy way for me to absorb stories and to absorb language, and the meanings of different symbols. So that's been helpful. It also educates me on like the pantheon that's out there. But yeah, you can create whatever ritual is helpful for you. Just think about like don't put too much on yourself to like have um, super profound experiences. Like, a lot of this stuff is actually really subtle. Just be open to it. Like, you're really just practicing listening. This is also a consent culture thing. Like, maybe they don't want to make a super loud noise, and that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's like 12:03, so if you're still here, like, I'm cool sticking around for a bit if there's other questions. If you have to go, thank you so much for being here. Does anyone else want to share anything? Or, ooh, look at that. Lucayo, always the knowledge. Please hit up Lucayo.
I just wanted to share a couple of things before, just kind of housekeeping stuff before we close up. But everyone's feel free to hang out in here. We'll keep the room open a little bit longer. One is that we do have a couple of other workshops coming up. So we have next week, which is the 6th, June 6th. We're going to be doing an amazing workshop, which I feel like for some of the, like, in terms of personally, like how I've been connecting to ancestors too, it's also been through language and food and stuff like that, but movement has been a really powerful force for me personally, just in terms of dance and eskrima and just kind of different kinds of movements. And so we're going to be offering with Techniclings, Gabe Torno is going to be doing a Tinikling workshop for us. So it's going to be all on Zoom, so you don't need big bamboo or anything like that. You just need to bring yourself, set your computer up, have space for a little bit of movement. So we'd love for you all to be in on those workshops. There's two. There's one at 10, and then there's one at 11:15. That's next Saturday. So if you want to join us next Saturday, or share that with friends, it's super family friendly. If kids want to join in, that's totally awesome too. And then we have two other workshops following that. We have not Moms but Lola's Sex Talk, and that's with Grace Kaligtan, and she's going to be talking about sex and gender identity, and having conversations around all of those things that are so easy to talk about with Filipino families. So yeah, all of that's going to be happening. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but I think that's June 24th.
No, June
Sorry, June
13, right?
13th. June
Yeah,
13th. And then the
the following
last workshop is going to be the 27th.
7.
Sorry, I'm so bad with remembering all the numbers. But the last one is for Filipinx students, and it's about mental health and well-being for Filipinx students. And we have several different folks coming in to talk about, yeah, just like what school is like in this moment for a lot of people who are kind of either going into college or transitioning out of college, high school students and post-college grads too. So if you know any students who are interested, please send them to that one. Come to the sex talk, come to the dance talk. And then Julz mentioned that Angel from Vallejo is going to be doing a workshop on plant medicine that's also going to be on Zoom. It's not officially connected to LAING, but we will be promoting it. And it is, yeah, it's a Philippine plant medicine workshop. So we can share, we're going to do a follow-up email with everyone. This is something else I want to share. We're going to include all the links. We're going to upload this talk itself, the video, to our YouTube channel so you guys can check in and go back and reference that. And we are also, I got to plug the donations again. So if you want to donate, I'm just going to leave the link there in the box. That would be so awesome if people want to donate to that. And then, am I missing anything? Anthony, got me back here.
No, just the classes and donate and sign up for our workshops. And we will be sending out the information and resources with the follow-up email, but the follow-up email will also include an exit survey. So please fill that out when you can. That really helps us with our data gathering, and it helps us apply for funding and grants to keep our programming free.
Yeah, and then we will be having Ilocano classes starting again in the fall. So just stay tuned. You can follow us. We're on Instagram. It's LAING Hawai, at LAING Hawai, and check out our website for other stuff. And yeah, Julz and Jamie, did you have anything else to add? I think it was it's a really, really informative, and not just informative, but affirming. I think that was when we talked about creating this workshop, we just talked about affirming people's intuitive feelings of like, well, I'm already doing this, but I don't know. And just really making sure that folks have not just the tools and like a basic kind of knowledge of some of the, you know, ways that this has happened for so many generations, but also ways that we can keep perpetuating these practices in our own ways, right? It's a personal practice. It's not just, you know, like how we learn in church or how we learn in other places, like the protocol, right? Like it is a way of just connecting yourself to everything that's around you. And I think that's the most powerful for all of us to join together in doing that for ourselves. Like we are overlapping with our communities. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there's also, everyone, please follow Jamie and Julz on Instagram. Their bios are also on our website if you want to read those. And yeah, if folks want to shout anyone out, please feel free. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Before folks totally take off, I would love for any QT healers to shout themselves out in the group chat. How do we get a hold of you? Who are you? What is it that you offer? Please identify yourselves because we all need some healing now.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry we didn't do that in the beginning, but we could also maybe make that a reminder in the email or something. But
And you can also download the chat if you want this text, or we can download it and send it out later.
Yeah.
I'll also make a plug that I have a lot of coconut husk. So if anyone wants, I can roll some up and send it to you. Maybe we could add that in a as like our little goodie bag or something. We could do coconut husk mail outs. I think that's a possibility. So if that's something
Yeah.
that you want, we can make that happen.
Rebecca has all the herbal resources.
Monica. Hey, Monica. Monica is an energy worker, yoga teacher, and artist. Follow her. Magtoto Art. Yeah, you guys, this is great. This is a great place to share that too. I can send coconut husk to Washington. Yes, Marikar, I can do that. So I'll add a little note for that. So this is going to be your the way that we're going to get you to fill out the follow-up survey. It's really important, you guys. The surveys for us are really, really helpful because it really just helps us tailor what kind of programming to do in the future. So when we send out that registration, or not the registration, the exit survey, please take a moment to fill that out, and you can we can collect your address and I can send you some coconut fibers. I have a package that's piling up for Anea too, so it's time to go to the post office. Another Monica. Wow, we got double Monicas. Awesome.
And I
She's
think
like
Jessie also chimed in.
And July is does batok. So
There's a
yes,
bunch, yeah, so check out the chat.
Everyone check out the chat. I'm not sure if I can send Husk to Canada,
fast.
but I know, me too. I'm like, oh, I can't catch up. Okay, Manang Marianella, I can get you the coconut husks for your orchids. We can do that too. Coconut husks are great for putting the orchid in and just hanging it from the tree. That's also a really good tip. It's very, very, the plants love to grow into the coconut husks. So it's a great way to attach stuff to the tree.
I'll just take a bunch of young coconuts. Thank you. No, just kidding.
Delivery.
Food delivery.
Huh?
Input. I see what's happening.
Oh, Alex is here. Like, I see what's happening. I see what's happening. Anthony is like, I need the young coconut.
So I would like to interject.
What would you like to say?
Well,
I have papaya. What else do I have to trade?
Oh yes. I'm so sorry.
So you can get your own husks.
This is a really important thing to add because my partner Alex is like in the background, like, I see what's happening here. I can hear the coconut bargaining going down. And we are also going to do a coconut workshop, probably, I'm not sure when, in the next couple of weeks. So you can learn how to open your own. I know a lot of folks are living in Washington and Canada and places where coconut's not just growing on the tree like it is here in Hawaii, but you have exemptions, and you can also learn how to open and use the coconut that is available in your store. A lot of Mexican shops have it, different, even the Asian store has it. And to learn how to use the actual coconut itself, my grandmother taught me how to do that. And that was really like moment of like, oh, wow, I know how to like open the nut. And then learning how to husk it from Alex. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can work with it, and that's coming soon too for folks who want to do that. Lucayo asked if we'll be sharing the Tagalog sacred story of the coconut. Are we talking, like, I'm not sure if I know that story, Lucayo, like the creation myth, like the pecking of the I don't know if that's the right story. Okay, Lucayo's happy to share it. That would be great. Coconut bargaining. Yeah, and husk is something that you can also use as rope too. I mean, you can use it for many different things, but that's new to me, the incense.
We used to use it to wash dishes.
Yeah, scrubber, right? Or rub clean the floor, wax the floor. That's a traditional way of using the coconut husk too. Yeah, Lucayo, if you want to share that story, I think we have time for that. Oh, thank you, Anea. Anea is sharing cedar or any other things from Washington, if anyone's interested. Yes, and we will share the, we can download and share the text chat box as a resource. Awesome. Plant gift economy, yes. Well, thanks again, everyone, for coming and sharing all these amazing resources. And let's just give Julz and Jamie another big round of applause. Should we do a selfie? Just
I'm
really
down.
quick. Is that cool? Is everyone down with that? If you want to flip your camera on, be in this selfie, get yourself ready. Okay, I'm gonna go in 1 second. Everybody ready? On 3, 1, 2, 3. Eee. One more. Got it. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and we really wish you a wonderful day. If you're going, I know there's a lot of organizing happening for Black Lives Matter stuff, so if you're going out, then please be safe, and if you're staying in, then just please take care of yourself and get some good rest today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Agyamanak.
Yay.
Agyamanak
Maraming
unay.
salamat.
Bye. Yay.
Salamat. Thank you for coming by,
Salamat po sa
Anea.
inyong lahat.
Thank you. Love to you all.
Salamat.
Well, thank you.
Agyamanak. Agyaman kami.